Vietnamese villages are making millions in the Mekong. This fertile expanse feeds the country and fuels the economy. Yet, tucked away in its lush folds, some villages are striking it rich in the most unusual ways. First stop, a village that's literally running on rats.
I'm not kidding, rats are the entire economy here.
Yep, you heard me right. These aren't your city sewer rats. They're caught fresh from the fields.
I tried to load one up myself several times, and let's just say it ended in embarrassment.
These rodents are a hot commodity around here, and we're going deep into the action, finding out exactly how they turn these pests into profit. And it doesn't stop there. Ever heard of vertical mudcrab farming? We're checking out these stacked blue boxes that are flipping the mudcrab industry on its head. People here are making serious bank from these things. It's ingenious, sustainable, and trust me, these crabs are ridiculously tasty.
In the battle of Filipino crab versus Vietnamese crab, I don't know, I might give the edge to Vietnam. Sorry to all my Filipino viewers.
Next up, it's the croc farms. These places are croc paradises, where luxury and sustainability meet, from the snapping jaws at feeding time to the burgeoning high-end leathercraft industry that's taking hold in Saigon. We're going deep because high-end leather is finding a new home right here. Finally, we're exploring farms where billions of black soldier fly larvae are turning organic waste into a protein-packed food source.
So this is whole handfuls.
Không phải là chỉ là pet food nữa, mà nó sẽ mở rộng hơn.
Welcome to Making Millions in the Mekong. First up, a village that survives entirely on rats, Phu Dat Village. This entire Mekong village runs on rats. They process hundreds of thousands of them every single day for meat. But what if I told you that it's far from a desperation food? That these villagers are making bank, that rat meat in these villages is now so highly sought after that they're literally importing these things from Cambodia just to meet the demand.
There's a good 100, 200 families here that make a living purely off rat meat.
You see, there's something special, something unique about rats in this area and the processing that goes down in this village that supposedly has them tasting amazing.
How often are you going to eat a rat in your life?
But how can a creature renowned for spreading disease and parasites even be safe to eat, let alone have a reputation like this?
Well, what the hell? Why are rats from this area so special, in such high demand, that they literally both import them and export them? Let's find out.
Every one of these rats is trapped in the wild, along rice field banks. It's something I've experienced firsthand hunting with my mentor, An Huang. The process is pretty simple, but it is effective. Hunters like An Huang create a huge amount of bamboo spring-loaded rat snares. These are then placed throughout the seemingly endless rice fields over any and all of the nest entrances.
So we are sort of working against the clock here, people. Light is fading and also rain is coming in. The general idea is this: we have a bamboo snare with a piece of rubber at the top. There's a fair bit of tension. You sort of really load these up. Jeez. Sort of really load these up. Oh my God, I have no idea how this works. Oh, here we go, I'm getting professional help. So the big one's on the bottom and then this goes underneath. Got it. Up and through the bottom of the lid. And it's a goner. Hopefully we catch a bunch. We have loaded up this riverbank with maybe 20, 25 snares right now. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. I've got to admit, this snare thing, it's a lot harder than it looks. I tried to load one up myself several times, and let's just say it ended in embarrassment. Not as easy of a task as it looks.
Many of these areas are remote. It can take hours to trek to the inner fields that have no roads connecting to them, and it is hugely labor intensive. But this method is effective, and it provides food for the villagers, prevents crops from damage, and it is more humane and environmentally conscious than the alternative, which is poisoning.
Honestly, we've been trekking through just sort of swampy land for a good 30-40 minutes now just to get to these guys. I think Anaheim really wanted to get a mouse for us, a rat for us today, and just went balls to the wall. This has definitely settled it for me. That thing is no mouse. These things are freaking huge. These are definitely rice field rats.
Cái này cũng có kinh tế nữa. Mùa chuột thường thì mùa chuột có là mùa xuân. Mùa xuân là chuột mùa lúa chín, mùa gần Tết á là chuột rồi rất thơm, rất béo. Cái mùa đó tụi anh đi đánh một đêm á, tụi anh kiếm có thể 2 triệu, 3 triệu, 20-30 kg. Bán người ta có người thu mua, người ta mua xong rồi người ta bán quán. Có quán bán thịt chuột nữa, nhưng họ làm rất nhiều món.
Okay guys, watching this, come on. You cannot tell me that does not look pretty good. Don't get me wrong, there's still that mental hurdle there. How often are you going to eat a rat in your life?
But there are far more rats than the farmers could ever eat. You see, the Mekong Delta is in many regards Vietnam's breadbasket. This one area produces more than half of Vietnam's rice. And Vietnam is the 3rd largest rice exporter in the entire world. Basically, there's a lot of rice here.
Hello, xin chào. Xin chào.
And among all that rice is a lot of rats. And that's where the village of Phu Dat comes in. This tiny village, tucked away on one of the smaller tributaries of the Mekong, is all about rats.
We have just arrived at the rat village and there seems to be rats everywhere. Every kind of rat stuff that I would call a mouse. Here in Vietnamese, everything is just chut. It's pretty hard to distinguish between a rat and a mouse. There is just one word. Well, I don't know. There's some mice, there's some rats, there's some big ones, there's some small ones. This place is kind of wild.
Every family here has a relationship with trappers that catch the rats from the vast expanses of rice fields in Vietnam's Mekong Delta and even those stretching into Cambodia. Each day, the trappers bring in the fresh catch by truck or by motorcycle.
An entire truck coming here, delivering tray after tray after tray of rats. Pretty crazy sight.
They bring them in large stacked steel cages loaded to the brim with rats. They've even been roughly sorted by size and color and potentially even species, although I'm really not sure about that. If there are any rat experts, please let me know in the comments.
They sort of scrape along the top of the cages to make the rats move around a little bit. They pick out the largest ones, and the largest rats that are available are all being transported into one container for eating. So we're just walking around. It's not like the giantest village, you know what I mean? Rats can only sustain an economy of so large, but there's a good 100, 200 families here that make a living purely off rat meat.
And when the deliveries arrive, each family quickly springs into action. Everyone from young and old has a role to play here, and there are many, many stations.
And I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of a gory sight at this point. This video almost stands no chance of not getting demonetized, I think. We'll have to see.
First, the rats are quickly dispatched with a rock. The tail and feet are then removed, and the rat is skinned. Next, the ears are removed and kept separate. These are sold as fish food.
Why would you pick up sea monkeys when you could feed your fish rat ears? Perfectly logical, really.
From here, the animals are then gutted. Notably though, if it is a male, the penis is removed.
They sell 1 kilo of rat penises for 50,000. It's like $2.50 for a whole kilo of rat penis. If that's not a deal, I don't know what is.
Finally, it is washed and carefully packaged on ice for shipment to customers all over southern Vietnam.
And so that's it. That's this giant conveyor belt of rat processing that we have here. There must be 100-200 kilos worth of rats. And this entire family has just gathered around into this giant factory-like process, this conveyor belt processing of rats. What a wild village, man. Incredible stuff.
And as night draws on, families throughout the village keep processing. Despite their speed, it's going to take hours and hours to get through today's shipment. And while it may look shocking, these guys are proud of their work and of the final product. I think it's why rat from this village is so sought after. The labour here is done with a level of care and professionalism that ensures a genuinely high quality of meat. It's 100% organic, wild-caught, grain-fed rat that's fat from the endless supply of rice.
You know, a shrimp salesman once told me that he could charge more for processed Vietnamese shrimp because of the level of detail the Vietnamese factory workers had, that they were good with their fingers and that they were able to keep meticulous condition of the shrimp. And you can see it here. This entire family is so quick and so swift, and every cut is so precise.
Here it's looked on much the same way as other small game, such as rabbit or squirrel. And so I couldn't leave here without seeing what all the fuss is about. Is rat from this village actually that good?
Okay, so we just saw this lovely lady dispatching what may have been one of the largest rats in this village. She's even agreed to cook it up for me. How kind is that? Let's see how this is. I'm trying to cross this road without dying right now. I don't want to die in the Mekong. At this point, it's probably been sizzling away for a good 10-15 minutes. I mean, seems like they cook these things pretty heavily, pretty well through. That's how I like my rat, actually. Well done. Okay guys, so moment of truth. This is the part where we find out why the rat from this village is in such heavy demand. Why is it that this is getting shipped all around Saigon? Why is it that literally truckloads of these things are being processed in this village? Now, I've eaten rat before, so one I really want to see here is this significantly different from the rat that I've had before by the Chu in Ninh Thuan province? Because this looks really different. This, when it's sort of been fried like this in the oil, has a real look of like fried chicken, and it looks pretty good, I've got to admit. It smells pretty good, and it doesn't look like a rat at all anymore. There's a surprising amount of meat on this, of fat. It looks kind of juicy. Okay, let's check it out. Oh, whoa. Oh my God. That is so fatty. That is crazy. Man. Dude, that is absolutely wild. I've got to admit, really effing good. But this has a real clean flavor. It sort of tastes like a really fatty chicken. If chicken had a ton of fat, it would be just like this. I've got to admit, that's just plain good. No bullshit. If something is bad, I will say it on camera. I'm kind of lost for words. That is a really fatty chicken leg or turkey. Huh. I think maybe the trick when you're eating rat is to just eat something that is literally that big. You really want something that's giant. And I've heard that squirrel is quite good as well. And maybe it's something similar to this, but it has a really clean flavor. It's nothing like what I've eaten before, actually. It's not actually even that hard to eat because it doesn't have that sort of rat-like appearance. I've even eaten rat head before, and compared to that, this is a breeze. If someone served this to you and you had no idea what it was, you'd be begging for more. I promise you guys. I think they even had the organs attached, but I can't see it. I'm gonna dip a little bit in this chili sauce, and then that's a little bit it. Just see what that tastes like. Oh my God, wow. Dude, that's crazy. I know everything is supposed to taste like chicken, but this is like a mix between chicken and pork, super fatty chicken mixed with pork belly. There is so much fat on this creature, I cannot believe it. From a sort of rice field rat, a wild rat, you'd think it'd be scrawny, nothing like the kind of big city rats you see, but this thing, man, exceptional. I don't know what exactly happens in this area, but it kind of makes sense to me. I now see why the rat meat from this area is in such high demand, why everybody wants it, why not only are they exporting it to Saigon, they're importing more of them in from the surrounding villages just so they can process it. This was pretty sensational.
From the rat-rich Phu Dat, we dive deep into Vĩnh Châu innovative mud crab tower. These Vietnamese farmers are growing mud crabs inside a tiny little blue shoebox like that, and they're earning millions.
How many baby crabs do you put in at one time?
Nó khoảng 100.000 con.
100,000 crabs. Wow, that's crazy.
This is a vertical mud crab farm. It is an ingenious invention helping transform what is typically a very primitive, slow, low-margin farming technique into an operation earning Vietnamese villagers millions. Each of these shoebox-sized pens house a mud crab worth its weight in gold. You see, mud crab is some of the best meat on the planet. It's highly prized everywhere they are found, fetching huge price tags all around Southeast Asia, India, Australia, and Africa. But there's an issue. Mud crabs can take forever to grow in the wrong conditions. Their shells are heavy and hard, making the yield to weight low and making them incredibly hard to process. In simple terms, despite the meat quality, crabs have to become huge before they're even really worth the effort. This makes crab farming typically unviable or low margin and puts massive pressure on wild populations. But here, deep in the Mekong, this mountain of blue plastic boxes could change all of that. This technique makes a huge sum of money for the farmers, creates a sustainable solution that alleviates almost all of the issues, and the end product, well, let's just say they cook crabs very, very differently here in Vietnam, and it does not disappoint.
And I think that might be the best out of all of this here.
But here in Vietnam, things are starting to look a little different. To find out exactly how, we're heading deep into the Mekong, down the narrow network of canals that make up the delta. Here in Vĩnh Châu, among the endless prawn farms, farmers are starting to up their game.
They're looking into innovative ways to level up their traditional farming techniques.
And ultimately, to make more money and produce a better product. This is where vertical farming comes in.
And it is filled with rows upon rows upon rows of these vertical mud crab farms. Now, I've seen recently the mud crab farming in the Philippines. They also use some sort of fattening up process at the end to sort of finish off these mud crabs. And this is the same deal, just taken to the next kind of level.
These farms are essentially a network of stacked shoebox-sized pens, all connected with a large water filtration system. This method is key. It both optimizes space, improves feed efficiency and growth rates, but it also ensures optimal water quality. It simplifies disease detection, eliminates cannibalism completely, and most importantly of all, it makes mass production of soft-shell crabs possible. You see, mud crabs experience a deceleration in growth as they age. This is due to their molting cycle, during which they shed and regenerate their shells.
Initially, this process happens frequently, fostered by rapid growth.
But it gradually slows down with time. Because of this, mud crabs can achieve a weight of 300 to 400 grams within approximately 3 to 4 months. But doubling that size to achieve what is typically marketable could require 3 to 4 times that long.
Okay, here's one for all the commenters, because I know there's a bunch of Australian snobs out there saying, I can't believe you guys are eating those tiny ass crabs. They're not even legal. For starters, they are legal. These are farmed crabs. No one is depleting wild stocks around here. Secondly, remember, these are primarily being eaten as soft shell crabs. You're getting the entire thing as yield. You're not picking through for tiny little bits of flesh. These are as fat as can possibly be because they are fattened up on pilchards and the shell has been shed. That is 200 to 300 grams of entirely edible crab meat. Everything is eaten, nothing goes to waste.
Yields jump from around 70% on a hard shell crab to 95% plus when sold in soft shell form.
So this is a fully prepared, packaged final product, a soft shell crab. This is the oddest kind of thing. This thing is frozen by and large, but even by feeling it now, it has a little bit of give. So crazy. I don't know why it's so unusual, but I'm just not used to seeing mud crabs in this kind of form, you know?
The process is quite simple. As the crabs are checked every day during feeding and cleaning times, they can easily be spotted when they're mid-molting. And once they do molt, they are simply put on ice for sale.
This is not a dead crab. It is a crab shell after it has changed It's skin. Part of the process of soft shell crabbing. A little bit different than in the West, where I don't think we usually bother, but it's pretty crazy. They just have tubs of crab shell lying around. Kind of like you see a snake skin, but you know, it seems entirely like a crab, but it's empty. And Guy, nice to meet you. Man, this is a pretty huge facility. How many crabs can you grow at one time in this place?
Mỗi lần thì chúng tôi nuôi khoảng 4.000 con.
4,000 crabs. How long have you been doing this for?
Được 1 năm rồi, tròn 1 năm. Cái mô hình này là cũng gần như là mới ở Việt Nam. Cua của chúng tôi thì nuôi ở ngoài ao. Sau đó là đến một cái kích cỡ nhất định sẽ đưa vào hộp để kiểm soát được cái lượng cua đầu ra cũng như đầu vào và chất lượng của nó.
What's the best final product?
Cua ở đây thì khi nào mà khách hàng mà cảm thấy là soi từng con từng hộp, nếu mà khách hàng thấy ok, chất lượng ok thì khách hàng tự bắt và tự tiêu thụ.
So the customer will request from you like a specific size or weight?
Đúng rồi, đúng rồi.
And how big is normal? Like what is the normal size crab that you will sell to them? How many grams?
200 gram đến 300 gram.
Wow. But what is most popular here? Are these soft shell crabs usually, or are they crabs sold with the shell on?
Ở đây thì con cua lột là bán nhiều nhất. Đúng rồi, con cua lột thì ăn hoàn toàn con cua. Tỷ lệ thịt chiếm đến 95%.
What about when it's not soft shell?
Không phải cua lột thì tỷ lệ thịt nó được khoảng 70%.
How many baby crabs do you put in at one time?
Con cua nhỏ thì bỏ vào nó khoảng 100.000 con.
Holy shit! 100,000 crabs. That's crazy. How big are they when you first put them in?
Nó gọi là cua tiêu, bằng hạt tiêu.
Wow, where do you get them from?
Cái đó thì mua ở các trang trại cho sinh đẻ.
What time of year do you do that?
Gần như tất cả các vụ ở trong năm.
Every season you're always adding more babies in.
Mình cứ quấn chiếu.
Wow. And how long does it take from when they're a tiny peppercorn till they're ready to be put in here?
Từ 2 đến 3 tháng.
That doesn't seem like that long. They grow pretty fast, huh?
Đúng rồi, cua nhanh lắm.
And what's the hardest thing about mudcrab farming? What could go wrong?
Khó khăn đó là cái nguồn đầu vào, cái nguồn mình làm nuôi ở ngoài ao không đủ để cung cấp vào hộp.
How many kilos do you typically export every month?
30 kg mua mỗi ngày, một ngày.
Oh, 30 kilos a day. That's a bit better. 900 kilos a month.
Yeah.
That's a lot of crabs. Pretty impressive facility. All right, thank you very much. That was a really interesting interview.
To me though, all this efficiency stuff is all well and good, but the idea of devouring an entire crab, including its brains, guts and gills, well, it could seem maybe a little bit off-putting. And I can't really help but wonder, can this stuff really stack up to the amazing chili ginger monsters that I've eaten recently in the Philippines? To find out, I'm heading back to Saigon to eat at Ming Cua 94, renowned as having some of the best crab, especially soft shell crab, in all of Vietnam.
So these guys right here are actually live soft shell crab. Kind of crazy. Okay, guys, we have made it back all the way from the Mekong, and we have in front of us one of the most delicious spreads of crab that you could possibly imagine. And while I absolutely love mud crabs, crabs in general, we're lucky in Australia we have such giant arch crabs. The reward is worth the effort, but it is still kind of fiddly, even with the giant mud crabs we have back home. Luckily here with these farm mud crabs, when they're soft shell, you can eat everything. And the best thing about mud crab in Vietnam, in Asia in general, is a lot of the work is done for you. It's not just boiled, it is laid out in some of the most spectacular dishes you've ever seen. In front of us here, we have just the claws, just the best bit. We have soft shell crabs, small, but you can eat the whole thing. There's no work involved. And we have Ming Sao Cua, basically vermicelli noodles with all of the meat picked for you, fried in garlic, chilies, shallots, you name it. Flavorful, rich dish, and I can't wait to dig in. Let's go for it. We'll try some straight up first, and then we'll dip some in the sauce. Oh man. Best bit about that really is just how much of the crab flavor is taken on by the noodles. It's pretty incredible. It's sort of all soaked in. I don't know when they steam the Ming noodles, the vermicelli noodles, if it took on some of that crab flavor. Maybe there's a little bit of crab broth in when they're steaming it, but it is crazy. Even the noodles just taste pretty much entirely like that beautiful mud crab flavor. You get a lot more of those other flavors, a little bit more of the shallots, the garlic, a little bit of chili. It's not too spicy. Fantastic dish. Moving on. So this bad boy is obviously the best bit of the crab. And what I love about a restaurant like this is you don't have to dick around with everything else. You can buy just the claws. I think we start with just biting this a little bit, and then we're gonna put some lime on it. Oh my God. That is so good. the batter has just helped keep the meat inside super moist, and it's just, I mean, come on, flaky goodness. I'm gonna add a little bit of this lime to it, and this time we're gonna dunk it in this sweet chili sauce for a bit of that Asian flavor. That is crazy. Just so good. Finally guys, what we've really come here for, straight up soft shell mud crabs. These ones were pretty small, I have to admit. Maybe not as large as the ones we saw in the Mekong. That really is a premium crab. And the best thing about these farm crabs as opposed to the wild ones are not only are you not depleting the wild stock, but they are all 100% full of meat. There's really no waste. There's none of that catching a giant mud crab and then finding out that it's essentially empty. Here we go. First up, straight up raw, and then we'll try a variety of these different sauces. And I think that might be the best out of all of this here. There's something about just including all of the different body parts in the crab here. The shell is just giving it a little bit more texture, and it's so juicy because of this batter. Unbelievable, really. Dip it in some of the sweet and sour. Oh, holy crap. I think some people might be put off a little bit by the texture, but not me. Honestly, this is far better to me. Once you get into the legs, you get a little bit of that crunch, a little bit of that texture from the shell, but it's actually delicious. It really contributes to, does not take away at all from this crab. I think I might actually prefer this just to the straight claws. Let's try some in this nook mum, this fish sauce. Wow, just sensational. There you have it guys, Vietnamese soft shell crab, minh sao cua, deep fried crab claws. If you come into Saigon, I cannot recommend this place enough. The address will be in the description. Don't miss out on this kind of crab if you are ever coming to Vietnam. Sensational. In the battle of Filipino crab versus Vietnamese crab, I don't know, I might give the edge to Vietnam. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Sorry to all my Filipino viewers.
Next up, we swap crabs for Crocs at Chu Hung's sustainable crocodile farm.
It is kind of creepy right now. I have a whole bunch of their heads just staring directly right up at me. Oh, gone. One quick swipe, and it was over.
This is a crocodile farm, and it's the core of a burgeoning industry that's making millions for people all over Vietnam.
How long have you had this crocodile farm for?
Bắt đầu từ năm 1987 là tôi bắt đầu nuôi cá sấu, khoảng gần 40 năm rồi.
Wow.
Farmers have been raising crocodiles here for decades, but only recently has Vietnam really begun to make big money. And that's thanks to a core shift in the way things operate.
Again, it has a reptile taste. Yeah, I don't think you would ever complain about that.
Bây giờ hiện tại là cũng phát triển ngành về cao cấp này khá nhiều. Thì thực ra họ cũng đã xài những món hàng đó là Hermes, LV và họ đánh giá là sản phẩm bên mình có thể ngang hoặc hơn nhiều. Nhưng mà giá thì rất là rẻ.
We're going to get into exactly how they're doing it, why it's worth it, but first, it's feeding time.
100 little baby crocodiles here, around about 1 year old. They come first to this facility at around 6 months. For the purposes of this meat and leather farm, this is how they start out. So these little guys, as I'm told, eat nothing but chicken, and man, does that look like a lot of chicken that they're bringing out.
And these little guys are hungry. There's something almost cute about a baby crocodile, or maybe it's just baby anythings. But once these guys start to eat, you witness that primal predator within. Utter chaos erupts, a frenzied struggle as they vie for chicken frames.
How much do these guys eat every day?
Tính theo tuần, một tuần thì nó ăn khoảng chừng mấy bé con cá sấu ăn khoảng 1 kg tới 1,5 kg.
And how much longer are these crocodiles going to be like this before you turn them into meat or leather?
Từ 2 tuổi tới 3 tuổi lúc nào mình cũng có thể sử dụng được.
Great. So these guys are just sort of waiting for an order. Is that correct?
Chúng tôi sản xuất theo kế hoạch của mình và giới thiệu sản phẩm đi ở nhiều cái vùng ở trong nước cũng như có thể cũng có xuất ra qua nước ngoài nữa.
And after the youngsters have fed, I turn around and I met with the sight of what was an empty riverbank, now crowded with crocodiles staring intently at me. As the keeper moves with the chickens to the opposite end of the enclosure, whistling along the way, it triggers the predatory instinct. They swiftly shift their focus, racing to where they know their next meal awaits. And I find that there's something profoundly unsettling about the calculated intelligence in their expressionless gazes. These guys knew exactly what was going down.
Are they still used for leather or are these for breeding purposes?
Chúng tôi giữ những sấu này để cho người dân tới đây thăm, họ biết đây là những báu vật của thiên nhiên, họ tham quan chứ không phải để lấy da nữa.
Cool, I really like that. It's sort of for educational purposes that they're keeping these guys around.
Nhiều điều rất kỳ diệu từ cá sấu nó xuất hiện từ thời khủng long.
It is kind of creepy right now. I have a whole bunch of their heads just staring directly right up at me. Oh, there we go. Oh, gone. It's wild to see these kind of dinosaurs with that sort of a response. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of creepy. Incredible animals when you see them up close. Wow.
Owned by Chu Hung, a former caretaker at Saigon Zoo, this farm reflects his deep experience with exotic animals.
Như vậy, từ năm 87 đến nay là cũng khoảng gần 40 năm rồi.
Wow.
The farm is divided into 3 sections. A juvenile raising area, where crocodiles are grown until they are 2 years old and then processed for meat and for leather. A breeding area, home to larger crocodiles, responsible for future generations.
Phía bên đây là cá sấu đẻ khoảng 10 tuổi.
And a retirement area, where a few select ancient crocs, some over a century old, spend their final days.
Còn bên đây chúng ta thấy sấu rất lớn, có con trên 500 kg.
Wow.
Và
500 kilos.
Chúng tôi sưu tầm cá sấu này lâu lắm rồi. Bây giờ chúng tôi cũng không biết bao nhiêu tuổi, nhưng mà tin là trên 100 tuổi.
Wow, that's incredible. So on both sides of us here, we have some incredibly old crocodiles.
Speaking with Chu Hung, it's clear to me that he cares deeply about these animals. And I'm quickly convinced about the importance of farms such as this one.
Có nghe tiếng nhạc nhẹ đang ở đây không?
Yeah, nghe.
Chúng tôi nuôi cá sấu theo tiêu chí là nhân đạo. Kể cả mọi loại động vật khác mà chúng tôi nuôi thì chúng tôi nuôi nhân đạo và tử tế, không làm cho nó sợ hãi hay đau đớn. Và tiếng nhạc mà phát khi cho ăn vậy để cá sấu cảm thấy thoải mái. Và ngay khi mổ cá sấu, khi mà khai thác nó, chúng tôi cũng đưa vô trong phòng cho nó ngủ. Ngủ đông á, ngủ lạnh từ từ cho cá sấu ngủ hoàn toàn mê man hết thì chúng tôi mới mổ. Để cái sấu không có chút đau đớn nào hết.
It's really compelling to me that these animals are raised in such a humane environment, and it's it's really cool. I like the music itself. It sounds nice.
Here, they think carefully about the state of the enclosures and the animal well-being. Hung's farm participates in Vietnam's restocking program, releasing a portion of their bred crocodiles back into the wild at various national parks.
Chúng tôi là cái công ty đầu tiên đem thả cá sấu vào rừng. Đã được quốc tế công nhận.
And it's the availability of commercially produced skins from farms like these that have all but eradicated the demand for wild poached skins in Vietnam, as they're both cheaper and of a far higher quality here.
Why is it that this is so important to you?
Là có cái gì đó thôi thúc trong lòng mình làm cái đó. Vì vậy chúng tôi cũng có một cái quan niệm về kinh doanh là gì? Kinh doanh không phải là để kiếm tiền, mà kinh doanh là tạo ra sản phẩm phục vụ cho con người. Phục vụ càng tốt thì tiền lời con người trả lại cho mình càng nhiều.
And the farm here doesn't just produce crocodile skins and meat. It's also at the forefront of a medical innovation, utilizing peptides and collagen extracted from the crocodile bones to develop trial phase medicines. These treatments are primarily aimed at combating bone diseases, especially in children.
2005 á, thì chúng tôi mới nghiên cứu cái xương cá sấu để nấu thành cái thực phẩm dùng cho những người bệnh xương khớp, và chúng tôi đã nghiên cứu gần 10 năm trời trong trường đại học về cái sản phẩm đó.
What's special about the crocodile bone that makes it ideal for this purpose?
Trong xương cá sấu rất nhiều collagen của xương. Và khi uống vô như vậy thì những người mà bị bệnh xương khớp á, trong xương người ta có nhiều collagen cho nên canxi nó dính vô.
As a part of the facility that they have here is like a school or a training center for kids with various kinds of bone diseases that they're hoping that some of the research and the products that they're developing can have some beneficial effects over time on these kids.
The current value of a farm like this lies though in the worth of crocodile skins and meat.
which brings substantial economic benefits to Vietnam. Historically, the bulk of this value was realized overseas, with Vietnam producing just the raw materials, but lacking the expertise to manufacture the final products.
Nhiều rồi đó thì chúng tôi mới bán cái da cá sấu nguyên liệu cho những hãng thời trang nước ngoài như LV, Gucci rồi đó. Rồi họ thuê công nhân Việt Nam may, rồi về họ chỉ gắn cái logo thôi mà họ bán gấp trăm lần so với đây. Từ đó tôi mới nghĩ là vô lý. Tại sao chúng ta phải trả tiền cho cái thương hiệu, cái vẻ đẹp mình tạo ra mình phải được hưởng.
However, that is changing really fast. Now we're gonna get into it, but first, it's time to see how things are on the meat side of the equation. Today, we're preparing crocodile spring rolls, deep fried croc in breadcrumbs, and the classic barbecued crocodile meat. We're taking on a cut of croc tail. To begin with, it's thoroughly tenderized, then scored in a crosshatch manner. We add a little salt, pepper, barbecue sauce, before it gets coated in egg, crumbed, and deep fried. It then rests for a little as we heat up some garlic and onion in butter within the wok. A bit more pepper is added along with some lime juice, and we then add the schnitzel back into the heat. Finally, we're doing up some barbecue with various sauces being combined into a marinade. The meat is stirred, a coal-fired grill is fired up, and we get to grilling. So this is the final product in terms of the food side of things. I've never actually had crocodile before. I've had a few semi-related species maybe. I've had goanna, I've had green turtle in Australia, which was kind of tragic, but very delicious. The main thing that I remember, I've got to admit, from both of those creatures was the fat, which was absolutely delicious. But I think either crocodile is a very lean creature, or that's not exactly how they've cooked it here, and that this has a distinctly Vietnamese vibe to it. Alright, so I'm going to start with some of this giant crocodile steak. We're going to slice a little bit off it. It is really pretty tender, which is kind of surprising. The odd thing here is, it kind of looks initially like fish and chips. It has that white flaky appearance with the batter on the outside. I'm expecting something fishy from the visuals. Maybe it's like that in the taste as well. So that's really good. It's sort of like thick, meaty flavor, obviously, than fish. Again, it has a reptile taste. I know that that's not the best reference for people at home. What you primarily get in this dish is the batter. You really get that lemon flavor coming through. It's really good. Imagine meat texture, fish-like appearance, the oddest fish and chips you've ever had. Really quite good though. Okay, let's go just for this. I think this is kind of like the crocodile rib cage. Really a rather small crocodile at this stage. It has some very fine bones. Again, it has maybe chicken crossed with fish-like appearance. You see these bones that are far too large to be a fish, but you get the similar kind of texture, at least from the appearance. Let's try this straight up right now, not dunking it in anything. That's just really good. It reminds me, if anything, of turtle. It has just a firm, white, flaky texture, much firmer than fish, but in no way is it, a bad kind of firmer. Just has a little bit more chew to it. You'd be hard pressed to pass this up. If somebody served it to you at dinner, you didn't know what it was, you'd be asking for plates of this stuff. Really quite sensational. Crocodile meat is pretty exceptional, but the bulk of the value lies in the leather.
Từ khi bắt đầu làm sản phẩm da cá sấu thời trang đó thì công ty phát triển rất nhanh và lớn lên rất nhiều nhờ đó.
The issue though is that although much of the manufacturing of the skins is done here in Vietnam, the manufacturing of the final goods is often done overseas. This meant that only a small portion of the profits from a final product is captured by Vietnam and the farmers themselves. That's now changing. Mr. Hung has had other ideas. He's stepping up his game and has set up an artisan workshop on site. And it's not just him. Having access to this rare resource has sparked entrepreneurs all over Vietnam to getting into the industry. Young artisans studying online, learning the craft and producing high-end goods on par with many of the major luxury brands, but at a fraction of the cost. Tang, founder of Tang Leather, is one such young man with a small workshop tucked away in the alleyways of Saigon. And so I meet up with him to see how leather is transformed into some of these high-end goods.
We're going to check out the process of building out a wallet from scratch. to finish. Things start out with a soft baby croc skin, which is cut to size with a template. It's worth noting that only one wallet can emerge from an entire skin, a fact contributing to the premium cost of large crocodile leather items. High quality skins are both subtly soft and uniformly thin, so we measure up to make sure everything is even before moving on. Step 1 complete, we've cut out the larger outside piece of crocodile leather that's going to be the main face of the wallet. Now move on to the inside. The interior of this wallet is being made from orange calf skin and not croc. These pockets are cut to shape and glued to a synthetic backing material that cards will not stick to. Update on the process. We've now finished gluing together the insides. It's sitting sort of drying to the side with some little weights on it, and we're waiting for some kind of heat glue machine to warm up. All these edges are then burnished with a heat knife to smooth and polish the rough edges of the leather. This gives them a professional finished look.
Ở Sài Gòn thì thực sự thời cách đây gần 9-10 năm rất ít những người làm về những cái da mà thật là kiểu chuyên nghiệp. Đa phần theo kiểu mà nghiêng về hơi bụi phong cách. Chứ nó không phải đi nghiêng về chất lượng cao hoặc sang trọng. Thì mình mới thấy thị trường ngách này, xong rồi mình mới nghiên cứu mình làm.
And the outer pocket is stamped with Tang's logo. At the same time, the exterior is also in progress. The outer piece of crocodile leather is being sanded at the centerfold to allow for a smooth folding, crease-free final product. So we now have 2 of our 3 layers complete, just the inside to be glued in. The exterior piece of leather will be a sandwich with croc belly on the outside, calf skin on the inner side, and a synthetic layer in the middle. To achieve this, everything is first glued up, carefully placed together, and the edges are finished with the hot crease knife. Finally, everything is repeatedly rolled flat to ensure no air pockets remain. So we now have a sandwich, black on the outside, orange on the inside, and some very fine soft leather in the middle. Stitching now begins. First, holes are pre-hammered into the outer edges of the exterior piece. From here, everything is hand-stitched together, with care being taken to ensure complete uniformity. I'm taking a break. Vietnamese iced coffee, but with salt. It's pretty good. And cream. That probably helps as well. The edge, and once again, the sides are burnished to ensure all 3 layers have one perfectly smooth and flat finished face. Moving back to the interior, and each of the card pockets is now complete and ready to assemble. Glue is carefully placed along outer edges, and each of the interior side pockets is fixed in place and hammered flat. And finally, a little stitching and many layers of sanding and edge finishing. Okay, so things are moving along at a decent clip. We have the inside sorted. All of the individual card holders have started to be glued together, comprised, and even the edging, the stitching that holds the 3-layer sandwich together is being done. It's coming together a little bit faster than I thought. The cost of a wallet like this from Tang is around $500, and that might sound insane, because it kind of is. But compared with the $7,000 price tag of the Hermes or Louis Vuitton competition, it's a bargain. And as a result, Tang is swimming with orders. How would you compare your quality to the big brands out there? Are you able to produce the same quality of wallet as, you know, like the Louis Vuitton, the Hermes, or not quite yet?
Khách hàng tìm đến mình mua một chiếc ví ví dụ như về cá sấu thì thực ra họ cũng đã xài những hàng đó rồi và họ đánh giá là sản phẩm bên mình có thể ngang hoặc hơn như vậy, nhưng mà giá thì rất là rẻ.
Do you mainly sell within Vietnam or internationally?
Yeah, but khách hàng của team Thắng thì đa phần là bên Trung Đông nhiều nè, ở Mỹ với lại ở Canada.
Tell me about the leather industry in Vietnam. How can they improve?
Mình cũng coi rất là nhiều nơi rồi, nhưng mà cái chất lượng cũng có khá hơn hồi trước nhiều, nhưng mà hiện tại là những như vậy.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing the spot.
I know exotic leathers often get a bad rap, but for Vietnam, a country with limited grasslands, high-end niche meats like crocodile could be part of the solution.
What's the most rewarding part of this job, this business for you?
Chúng tôi phát hiện ra rằng cái việc khai thác động vật không phải là xấu, vừa có ích lợi cho con người và ích lợi cho động vật luôn, gọi là khai thác bền vững, nuôi cá sấu rồi đối xử tử tế với nó và thả nó vào rừng.
Crocodiles, being indigenous, require significantly less land than cattle and are obviously ideally suited to the local aquatic environments. By reducing the prices and increasing the quality, farmers have all but eradicated crocodile poaching and are now actively replenishing the wild populations.
Thì mình cảm thấy mình được phục vụ cho xã hội, đồng thời mình lại là nhận được lại tiền.
On the leather side of things, bringing the entire production process in-country, from breeding through to the final product, Vietnam is finally beginning to develop a truly profitable and sustainable industry.
Ở thị trường mình thì nó phát triển chậm hơn ở khác, nhưng mà gần đây thì tốc độ phát triển rất là nhanh về ngành hàng.
It maximizes the use of every part of the animal, contributing to a truly sustainable and economically valuable agricultural model. Moving on, we head to Dom Ngai to see sustainability in action with black soldier fly larvae.
These things crawling all over my face are black soldier flies.
What have I done? Why did I agree to this episode?
They are farmed by the billions and hailed as a potential superfood. The future of sustainable protein.
Mình ứng dụng cái con ruồi lính đen này tạo cái protein mới, nguồn protein mới.
Their larvae are supposedly a revolution in animal feed and even potentially a revolution for human diets also.
Can humans also eat this stuff? So this is, whole handfuls.
But is this some kind of dystopian World Economic Forum enforced nightmare crafted by global superpowers? Or is this a bona fide grassroots solution to the pressing environmental and food security challenges of developing nations?
I don't know what's more uncomfortable, this in my hands right now or having those flies all over my face. Probably the face.
Luckily, I found something just like that in my adopted home country of Vietnam. So today I find myself in Dom Ngai province, not all that far from Saigon, and here I'm meeting up with Mr. Tai, an entrepreneur focused on developing sustainable solutions for Vietnam's farming industry. He operates a huge 4,000 square meter facility, generating solar power and underneath those giant shades, producing billions and billions of black soldier fly larvae.
Guys, today we are here with Mr. Tan, the owner of this huge black soldier fly farm. I have seen this kind of thing once in the Philippines, but it is nothing like this. Let's find out how it goes down.
We're starting out in the breeding area, the first stage of black soldier fly larva production. Mr. Tai's facility houses these flies in carefully controlled environments.
We need to cover and we need to take the sunshine in this one 7 days. They will give to us 400,000 and 500,000 eggs.
400,000 to 500,000 eggs every 7 days.
Every 7 days.
Each fly?
Yeah, each fly.
Wow.
With netting to keep them in one area and fake leaves for them to rest on. Although, judging by the number of swallows hanging around this place, there must be a large number of escapees.
This is black soldier fly farming. What have I done?
Here, female flies lay their eggs between two pieces of wood that are set up for easy collection.
Actually, inside this one we have the special material for, for them come on the top and come in there for take out the eggs.
This is one of the most intense farming processes I've ever been a part of. You definitely got to be pretty comfortable with insects if you're going to do this stuff. Man, wow.
After the eggs are harvested, they're moved to a dark room where they are set up in large blue boxes to hatch. The eggs are produced in such huge quantities that they themselves can be sold as one of the products to feed smaller fish.
So the eggs sort of sit on like a sieve, and when they hatch, they're going to fall through to the bottom of this green bin.
And this is where we're sort of brushing them to the corner and collecting what are just absolutely tiny microscopic larvae. And once hatched, they are tiny microscopic maggots, but that will not last. These things grow quickly. Hatched larvae are transferred to grow-out basins, large concrete tubs where these voracious eaters will be gorging on all they can possibly eat. During this phase, the larvae are fed a diet of rich organic waste materials. Mr. Thai largely uses organic waste from beer production, as well as organic waste from other farms operating nearby in the area.
I think it's going to be pretty hard for us to truly capture the scale of this, but it is pretty wild just how much volume of larvae they can produce with a warehouse that just in this one room, each of these sort of squares of larvae must have close to 500 kilos, I'd say, of pure protein. That's a lot of animal feed. That's a lot of anything feed if you want.
The Vietnamese climate is perfect for these guys. The high temperatures and high humidity create ideal conditions for these larvae to reach their growth potential. And this stage is a period of intense feeding and growth. It typically spans 14 to 21 days and prepares the larva for harvesting.
After more than 2 weeks, it means 14 days, we will eat this one.
So half of it you leave for chicken feed and half you keep for the other cycle. Okay guys, so this is the next generation of black soldier flies. And there's there's thousands of these things. You only need to keep 10% for the next generation, the rest is product.
Harvesting is a relatively simple and manual process, using a sieve to separate the larva from any remaining organic waste. There's also a quick quality assurance test, and then they're packaged for shipping.
Mr. Thai,
Yeah, hello.
thank you very much for showing me around the farm. You have a huge operation here. How long have you been doing this?
Thực sự thì bên mình cũng triển khai cái này được 4 tháng rồi.
4 months on.
4 months. Nè.
This seems like a pretty big facility for 4 months. What are you trying to do with farming the black soldier fly?
Cái mục tiêu của dự án là mong muốn là đưa ra một hướng đi mới để phát triển cái thứ bậc của trang trại lên từ chỗ là nông dân mà lên chỗ là công nhân.
So you want to turn this farm into a factory?
Yes.
A factory of black soldier fly.
Yeah.
Why is there such a demand for this product in Vietnam?
Ngành công nghiệp về đánh bắt cá sẽ phải tăng lên theo thời gian, thì như vậy thì sức phá hủy của con người đối với môi trường nó sẽ tăng lên và cái nguồn protein thay thế duy nhất mà để mà tái tạo lại cái tự nhiên thì chỉ có là protein của cái ruồi lính đen, nguồn protein mới.
It's the most sustainable way to meet Vietnam's demand for protein feed.
Yeah.
Who is buying this? Why are the farmers buying this product from you?
Cái chi phí sản xuất nó đang là lớn và cái sản phẩm chỉ cung cấp được cho những cái động vật mà có giá trị cao như là pet food.
Is it easy to sell this product to the fish farms?
Fresh larvae, we cannot do shipping in the far away with a long time. We only shipping in the half day only.
Right.
Only
I
that
see.
one. Yeah.
So this is the problem at the moment. Wow, where are you guys 5 years from now? What is your vision for here?
Tìm ra giải pháp cho cái vận chuyển bằng những cái sản phẩm mới có chất lượng nhưng mà phải giảm giá thành. Sản phẩm đầu ra là phải cam kết là phải an toàn hơn khi mà mình sản xuất số lượng lớn. Đó, như vậy đấy. Thì cũng mong muốn mọi người hiểu về cái vấn đề này, thì nếu người nào có hứng thú thì có thể là liên hệ với bên Tài để mà mình có thể là tìm ra những giải pháp mới hơn cho cái này, không phải là chỉ là pet food nữa mà nó sẽ mở rộng hơn được cái nguồn năng lượng mới hơn nhé.
Okay, well, I wish you the best of success. I would love to come back here in 5 years and you have a huge, much bigger soldier fly farm.
Yeah. Thì, okay, thank you.
Thank you. This place, to be honest, is like a WEF dream. They'll get ya. Don't worry, this stuff will one day be human food. Better be careful. I'm just kidding. You guys are watching too much YouTube.
But what is the need for all of this feed? What's it actually used for? Well, one of the biggest areas of need in Vietnam is aquaculture. Vietnam's aquaculture industry has witnessed remarkable growth, emerging as a powerhouse in the seafood market. With production scaling into the millions of metric tons annually, the country has cemented its status as a leading exporter of shrimp and a variety of fish species. To check out exactly how this goes down, I'm taking a trip down to Xuan, one of the many industrial towns in the now booming Mekong region. While the city's industry explodes, many of the river dwellers here are living a far more traditional life, and fish farming is a big part of it.
Come on.
From floating markets to breakfast sellers.
Wow, perfect. Al dente, not too cooked, not too soft. That's really solid.
And of course, floating villages of fish farms.
The Mekong is somewhere that has just absolutely fascinated me for the longest period of time. And I think it is this water life, this living on the river. Maybe it's because I've just come back from Tawi Tawi. I don't know. But this giant delta has a culture and an ecosystem all of its own.
These are floating villages that dot along the river. However, this booming industry faces significant environmental challenges. The majority of farmed fish species here rely on feed that is made from wild-caught fish. This creates strain on the marine ecosystem and raises concerns about the sustainability of Vietnamese aquaculture growth. After all, if we're just turning fish into more fish, then what exactly are we doing here?
So the basic process here is they have what I believe to be some kind of cornmeal. Maybe we can get a more accurate answer. They then mix it with water and fish, dead fish. It all gets ground up into fish pellets, and that is fed directly into these fish ponds here. That's essentially how this house gets by. Just fish farming in your living room. Pretty wild. Kind of crazy to me, these houses just like network together with boards and planks. Oh God, I'm gonna drop my camera again. So some of these sort of network together floating fish farm villages have the nets just entirely inside, and some of them are, these fish I guess are lucky enough to be outside, have a little bit of sunlight. These holding pens just absolutely packed with fish. It is pretty crazy, just teeming with fish. I'm sure there's going to be some people in the comments with some problems. This is just the reality of life here. This is how it makes economic sense for these people to farm these fish. Thousands and thousands and thousands of fish under every household.
And here in the Mekong, it's not exactly fresh fish we're using as feed either. Much of what I witnessed was pretty close to rotten. I don't know if this really matters, but I don't know about you guys. There's a certain amount of reassurance that comes from knowing that the meats you are eating are fed clean feeds. And this, of course, is where black soldier fly larvae can come in. A game-changing solution that promises to revolutionize aquaculture feeds as it does feed for other livestock. Black soldier fly larvae, with their high protein and fat contents, offer a sustainable, effective alternative to traditional fish meals.
You know, it really is a pretty impressive creature. Like, it is crazy to me just how many of these things you can produce in such a tiny space.
Man created the waste. When God saw this problem, He created the black soldier fly.
Potentially alleviating pressure on wild fish stocks and supporting the continued expansion of Vietnam's aquaculture sector in a sustainable, clean way.
Cool. That is it for this one, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode on the Mekong floating live. Some of the crazy way people are still surviving along this giant waterway. Subscribe, like, do all that fun stuff. Put comments down below. You know you want to. Goodbye. I'll see you in the next video.